CC's taken? Okay. They are now. Where?
I think that the search was on a few minutes ago for a minister or a priest to say thanks for our food. They couldn't find one, so they found the son of one. I think that was the next best thing. But if you would all please bow your heads for prayer. Our Lord and Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the privilege of coming today to honor Gus Blumline. We are thankful, Lord, for the service that he has given to St. Clair Shores, the service that he has given to the community of St. Clair Shores. We ask now that your hand of blessing would be upon him, would be upon his family, and all of us gathered here. And we ask that you would use this food that we are about to partake of to strengthen us in thy service. In the name of Christ we pray. Amen.
Thank God.
First, this is Chief Tony Eward, and sitting next to him is his wife Marilyn, and on the other side is yes, Mrs. Williams, Shirley. Boy, I've got a blank here today. Shirley retired a little while ago, so we didn't forget her, but her name sometimes slips us. Over here in the Records Bureau we have Lynn, Mary, and Marcia, and I'm Lieutenant Lyle Van Peeren. And that's it for this table. Thank you.
Congratulations, Gus. Fred Stein from Roseville.
Roger Benedict, Roseville. Congratulations, Gus.
Dick Sparks, Roseville. Congratulations.
George Schaefer, Roseville. Gus, I can't believe a guy who spent 35 years in police work and all that time in crime prevention took 35 years from the city.
Mr. Sheehy from the local police department.
Danny DeSandy, retired. And I love it, by the way.
Here, Bob. Joe Snyder, the best politician money can buy.
Ed Nadolsky, retired Free Press manager, former Kiwanian.
I'm Paul Gateson, and I'm from Warren, and good friend of the Simon here.
Dick Calabar from St. Clair Shores. Yay!
I'm still waiting to hear a bad word about you. Keep up the good work.
attention for just a moment. Two of our esteemed members of Macomb County have to leave because there's some crooks that have to be put away. And I would like to introduce you to Circuit Court Judge Frank Denowith and Judge Frank Jeanette, both of whom have to leave. I'm sorry, I said Frank Denowith. I meant George Denowith and Frank Jeanette. I'm sorry, Judge, and I promise never to come up before you.
Come up anytime. We'll give you a fair trial before we hang you.
I worry about it every day.
I know.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Ladies and gentlemen, due to the fact that most of the city is shut down as a result of this luncheon, we're going to proceed because some of the people, particularly in my office, are expected to be back in about 7 minutes. So without further ado, please keep eating. I notice a lot of you have some of that spaghetti sauce dripping down your chins, but please continue eating, and if you feel like having a dessert or if you would want Lenny to bring you some more food, just raise your hand. We'll stop what we're doing. We'll go get it for you, whatever. First person, traditionally, that we introduce in an event of this type would be our beloved mayor of the city of St. Clair Shores, who has a presentation to make to our honored guests today. Would Mayor Ted Wabi please come up?
What's so funny? Because I had to lower the... Well, all the women turn their backs because I want to make a little gesture to some of these people out here.
That was Frank Loria.
Frank Loria, is that Frank that said that? It's a pleasure to be here today to pay a little tribute here to Gus. I can't think of anyone that works in this city or is a part of this city that promotes this city like Gus does. He's involved in many, many areas of our community. I think he, by his actions, demonstrates what we'd like to see our total police department do. And that is be involved in the community. I sincerely mean this, because if we ever had a goodwill ambassador for St. Clair Shores, Gus Blumline is it. Very, very proud of Gus and his actions here in this community. And with that, Gus, in recognition of honest and faithful service to the city of St. Clair Shores, this certificate of honorable service is hereby awarded to Police Lieutenant August Blumline. Upon the occasion of your retirement, this certificate is awarded as a testimonial of loyal and dedicated service which you have contributed for the past 35 years, beginning in 1953 as a patrol officer, continuing in the Investigation Bureau from 1961 to 1973, forming and heading the department's Crime Prevention Bureau from 1974 through 1978, followed by Patrol Supervisor, Records Bureau, and Traffic Supervisor, and finally Commander of the Investigation Bureau since 1981. Gus was also instrumental in writing the department's history booklet. Now therefore, the Mayor and Council of the City of St. Clair Shores, on behalf of the entire community, extend great praise and appreciation to August G. Blumline for so faithfully performing the duties of his office and wish him many happy and fruitful retirement years. I hope Gus continues to write our Kiwanis letter because she's doing a hell of a rotten job. So Gus, get back to writing, will you?
I will, sir.
On behalf of the city, we'd like to give you this key to the city, Gus. And again, my appreciation, I'm sure, to the fellow members of council for your dedicated duty to this city. Good luck to you. God bless you.
Thank you, Your Honor. You know, giving me the key to the city is one thing, but
I've been trying to find something to do for this last week, and I've been getting in my car, and I go to the south end, and I go to the north end. And yesterday, I got mixed up, and I stopped over to the city garage, and I pulled up by the gas pumps, and I realized that they took my key away for the gas pumps. That's what I need.
You ain't getting up here no more after every speaker. Trust me when I say that might have been your last shot. You might have just shot it, Gus. I don't know. Speaking of shots, I wanted to make sure before I made any more remarks that Gus is not carrying heat today. I need to know that before I go any further in my remarks. And I would like some verification from the members of the record department who promised me they would strip search him before he came over here. Girls, how about it? Did he? Did he or did he not? Is he carrying heat or not?
Jack, if you ever saw him shoot, you wouldn't worry about it.
Okay, and thank you, Mayor Wabi, and I'd like to do just a brief commercial regarding Mayor Wabi. Some of the people in the community have expressed a strong desire to have some kind of a dinner or something where they could get up and express their feelings about our mayor. As many of you know, in the last election, Ted Wabi received over 10,000 votes, and we feel a lot of those 10,000 people would like to come and tell him how they feel about him. And 6,000 people voted against him, and they want a shot at him too. So on Wednesday, April 20th, right here where you're sitting, there will be a roast of the Honorable, the beloved Ted Wabi. And the proceeds of that event will go for our 1988 Memorial Day Parade. Tickets will be on sale pretty soon. I'm sure most of you will be informed about it. If you have any problems, you need tickets, please give me a call. I'll be able to refer you to someone. I might mention right now that the honorary Grand Marshal of the 88 Memorial Day Parade will be our honored guest today, Gus Blumline.
Thank you, Jack.
I think that's something that Gus and all of us can be very, very proud of. Anyway, getting back to the Wabi roast, the official title of it is La Flambe a la Wabi. And we promised to roast his little ass that night. And we hope that many of you will be there to participate in that. And I'm quite sure that for a couple extra bucks, I can make sure you get on the agenda that night. Okay, we're moving right along here, and Art Woodford is the next person to come up, who has a presentation, a short poem. Art, as most of you know, is the city librarian. Move quickly, Art, because we got to be back right away. And Art is also a noted author that many of you probably have difficulty sleeping at night, have read some of his books. Art Woodford, please.
Looking out over the assembled crowd here today, I realize that I'm kind of the new kid on the block. It was my privilege and pleasure to come to work and live in this city in early 1977. And shortly after that, I met Gus Blumline. And to use those words again, it has been a pleasure and a privilege to work with Gus. As many of you know, he has been the chairman of our historical commission, and that's pretty much my relationship with Gus. And one of the things that I know he is particularly proud of is the publication of our little magazine called Muskrat Tales. And the title of the magazine was Gus's idea. That's Tales, T-A-L-E-S. It was his idea, and this is what we say about muskrat. Although still seen occasionally today in the rivers and marshes of this area, muskrats were once very plentiful. Their fur was valuable and the meat a delicacy to the early settlers. Often pronounced mushrat, the name became a term of endearment amongst the descendants of the old families of the area. They would say partly in French and partly in English, "How goes it, you mushrat, you?" Okay, in this last issue of the magazine, we published some poems about the old French settlers of the area, and I'd like to read one of those today. It's a story about an old hunter by the name of Chenot and his dog Ponto. However, I think it would be much more fitting for the occasion instead of being Old Chenot if we read it as Old Blumline. Now, it's in the Old French, and it doesn't rhyme, but I don't think that that really makes any difference this afternoon. And the title of this little piece is, I'll never go hunt for the muskrat no more. Old Blumline go hunt for the muskrat one day. He take his dog Ponto to show him the way. He get soaking wet, in the water he fall, and he don't find no game or no muskrat at all. He's feeling disgust, and he's not satisfied. He's wet and he's getting so mad by and by that he say to himself as he curse and he swore, I'll never go hunt for the muskrat no more. He wade to the marsh as he wade through the hay till he get pretty close where that muskrat he lay. His dog he been point for the all smell the game. So he up with his musket and he take a good aim and he pull on the trigger and he make one big sneeze and down in the water he goes on his knees. Then he say it out loud and he jump on the shore, I'll never go hunt for the muskrat no more. The big mallard duck, she sitting close by. That's lucky, for Blumline's no good on the fly. So he take good aim, but the gun she don't go. The bullet she wet and the powder also. He ripped and he cursed at that gun and that powder. His voice he'd go higher and then she'd go louder and he all over more loud as before. I'll never go hunt for the muskrat no more. But the old mallard duck, she sits on the creek. So he says, Mr. Mallard, I'll show you a trick. I'll pass a few salt on your feather behind. I'll fix you so easy, this time you will find. But the duck smells the salt in Blumline's tin pail. She haul off her main sheet and then she makes sail. The old man, he yelled and he ripped and he swore, I'll never go hunt for that muskrat no more. Then he jumps in his boat. He's mad and he's wet, using strong language and more you can bet. And he say to old Pontano, I want you to know I'm the boss of this here marsh and my name is Blumline. While he paddles so lively, he's bump on a log, and over goes Blumline, the gun, and the dog. Then he holler like hell and he hollers some more, I'll never go hunt for that muskrat no more. He climbed to the bottom. For help he was called. He say, I go down with my muskrat and all. Some habitant hear all the noise and the splash, and Baptiste, his son, come down to the marsh. He pull out the dog and he pull out Blumline, but he loses his gun in the channel below. Baptiste say, Pa, you're safe on the shore. Don't hunt in the marsh for those muskrat no more. He spread on the grass his shirt and his pants. They dry in the sun if you give them a chance. But a big hurricane she was passing close by. He pick up those pants and he blow it sky high. When Blumline he notice his pants in the air, he say, we'll go home while the wind she is fair. I'm done with this marsh. I'll keep on the shore. I'll never go hunt for that muskrat no more. With his wife, Sue, grab hold the old man by the head. With 2 tree flat iron on top of his head, she pass him the shin bone with mustard plaster. She rub him with kerosene oil everywhere. She give him some sarsaparilla with a spoon. Then he say as he opened his eyes pretty soon, such luck on the marsh, I don't have it before. To hell with the muskrat, I'll hunt him no more. Thank you very much. Good luck, you old muskrat, you.
Thank you for those inspirational words. A lot of people now understand why I turned in my library card. Somebody wake up the kids now. The next speaker, who will be asked a question when he gets up on the podium by either the Judge Crouchman over here or myself, is that, do you have any goddamn poems about muskrats? Is our State Representative John Maynard, and as he winds his way up to the podium for his short address, I would relate, as John comes up here and is asked a question by Judge Crouchman, clears what he has to deliver, I would relate to you my first experience in meeting Gus. It was when he was a patrol officer, and I was a young man at that time, and I was stopped, and he ordered us out of the car, and he said, put your hands on top of the car, do not move, bend way over, unbuckle your belt. I knew, that. I thought maybe he was also studying at night for a medical degree. Many of the police officers do, and he was going to study to be a proctologist. And he said, make one false move and I'll blow your balls right. And I said, geez, Mom, maybe we better do what he says. Ladies and gentlemen, State Representative John Maynard.
I'm not going to take any time at all after all this. It's time to go home, I think, folks. This is a concurrent resolution, a House concurrent resolution for Gus. It says a lot of good things about him, some of which are true. But there's one statement that I would like to read in here that I think about Gus when I think about history, and so I'd just like to read this. Friends and neighbors have also benefited from Gus Blumline's leadership in the Historical Commission. He was a founding member of this organization's forerunner, the Historical Committee, and has served as chairman since 1977. He played a pivotal role in purchasing, moving, and restoring of the Solinsky Green log house, which now serves as a museum. Moreover, under his guidance, the Commission publishes a historical magazine in County Atlas. I think that that sort of lets people know what some of Gus's other interests are besides his work in the police department. I'm sure that law enforcement, being what it is, as stressful as it is, history is a good outlet for anyone who is interested in reading about our forefathers and ancestors. And so I'm hoping that after Gus does retire, he'll stay active as a historian. I'm not sure that Jack would be safe if Gus had to arrest him in 4 or 5 years, but I know his mind would be sharp enough to at least appreciate the history of this area and of Michigan. I enjoy history very much, and I have a collection of Michigan history books that I'm sort of proud of, and if you'd like to look at them sometime, Gus, I'd be happy to show them to you. At any rate, this was signed 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it does show that the legislature can move in a timely way when something important like a retirement comes up. So at any rate, Gus, congratulations to you, and all the best.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
I don't know about you guys, but he scared the hell out of me when he started talking about those history books. I thought he was going to whip a couple out and read a couple of chapters. Anyway, John, you have my vote, buddy.
Yeah, Walter.
Okay. I'd like two gentlemen to come up next, and this would be the two Jims from the Kiwanis, the Lieutenant Governor Jim Waller of Division II, and Jim Amos, who is the State of Michigan Governor this year. I would like you to come up and make a couple of brief remarks, gentlemen, right up here. And as they wind their way up here, and Judge Couchman checks them for history books or any other thing, I might say that, and as they try and get their act together, they're going to do a little song, I understand. Representative Maynard mentioned that Gus's priorities, and while he did that, I made a couple notes, and it's true that Gus does have some very important priorities. For instance, the church, his family, his community, certainly Kiwanis, sex, writing about sex, his garden, that's very important to Gus. Writing about sex in his garden is very important to Gus. And I checked it out, and in 27th position was his job, so I wanted to point it out to a few people. Without further ado, the two gentlemen from the Kiwanis, State Kiwanis.
Thank you. These mics are good for tall people around here. Gus, when I was coming on the freeway today, I didn't quite know where the Barton House was, and I stopped and asked somebody, and they said, well, I think it's over there where there's either a flea market going on or a garage sale. There's all kinds of police coming. It might even be some kind of a smoker program. And I said, well, I don't know, but I'm going to go. I'm pleased to be here today, Gus, to kind of speak for all of the Kiwanians in the Michigan District. Gus has been a Kiwanian for over 15 years. He's past distinguished president, past distinguished lieutenant governor. In fact, at his age, you're about past everything. And Gus, from your friends in Kiwanis, one of the things that I know you supported for many years is the amendment change that we recently had about getting women into Kiwanis. Those of you that know Gus know that he's always been very progressive, and he really fully supported the whole issue. You guys got to know Gus, though, because when after we had our Washington, D.C. convention and Gus came back and wrote that famous article that he always continues to write, he went back and thanked everybody for supporting his motion and supporting his ideas. So, Gus, we're real thankful for that. I'm glad, too, that you're back writing it, because he has not been doing as good a job as you have, and I think that's kind of important for all of us. Gus has been sergeant at arms at many different occasions, and I think that's pretty important because that helps us to keep law and order. Very seriously, though, Gus has been a real help to Kiwanis, and he knows how to build, and that's what Kiwanis is all about. It's been a great inspiration to many of us. One of the things that I've always been impressed with is Gus's very deep spirituality. He was telling me once, rather in a spirit of confidence, that he had somewhat of a vision of passing away, and he passed away at the same time as past Governor Bill Hershiser and as our famous, hopefully past editor Bill Sheehy. And the three of these guys got up to heaven one night, and it was rather late. And when they got up to heaven, they checked in, and St. Peter put them in kind of temporary quarters. Well, when they woke up in the morning, the first one to wake up was Bill Hershiser, and Bill wakes up and he looks next to him, and in bed with him is a horse. Now, I don't mean a classy-looking horse. I mean a horse that's got, the bugs and the flies. When I was a kid, I was raised in Detroit. We called him the Sheeney's horse at those times, and it was really something. And anyway, Bill couldn't understand what was happening, and he said to the Lord, he said, Lord, what did I do to deserve this? And from the back of heaven, the Lord said,
Bill, for all the sins of your past life, you're assigned to spend the rest of eternity with this horse.
Well, that wasn't too bad, except then Sheehy wakes up, and Sheehy's got next to him about a 900-pound cow. Now, this is a cow that should have gone with the horse to the glue factory, and just an ugly-looking cow, and smelly and huge, and the bed's all flopping over, and Bill Sheehy says, Lord, what did I do to deserve this? And from the back of heaven, the Lord said,
Bill, for all the sins of your past life, you're destined to spend the rest of eternity with the cow.
Well, our good friend Gus wakes up. Now, Sue, I hope you're not caught off guard on this, and this is in Gus's spirit of confidence to me, that he woke up and next to Gus was Bo Derek.
Oh, sure.
Bo Derek in a beautiful pink negligee, perfume, just beautiful.
Do you know what to do?
And Gus kind of with that smile of his kind of turned to the Lord. He said, Lord, what did I do to deserve this? And from the back of heaven, the Lord said,
Oh, Jerry, all the
Gus, very seriously, though, I would like to thank you as the governor of the Michigan District of Kiwanis for all that you've done. I know that Kiwanis means a lot to you, and you're not going to retire. About 3 months ago, when we heard that you were retiring, we went to all of the Kiwanians in the Michigan District, and I'm happy to tell you that the 8,736 Kiwanis men and women in the Michigan District chipped in on a gift, and I present you with this 28 cents from all your friends in Kiwanis.
Congratulations to you.
I'm only a lieutenant, so I just follow the governor, and I won't take much time. But Gus, I did want to tell you that I tried to keep the crowd down. Everybody asked me how you got to the Barton House. I says, just go to Harper and turn north of 13. I do believe, however, that he does write a better book than you. At least I get more respect. I don't get RBS after my name on the envelope. And I hope before you pass out of this world, you'll tell me what RBS means. And I'm not going to stand here and offend you anymore because I've offended you once before and I paid dearly for it. So my mother didn't raise no fool. Gus, congratulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you both very much, and I really like that little ditty, and I hope that we can work on it and get it down to we also have this one's heavy, boy, and I'm doing this one straight. Watch my lips, folks. No jokes here. May I invite Bill Sievers from the FBI. FBI, and that ain't Fat Boys Institute, so... Be very nice to this guy. He's watching all of us.
Thanks, Jack. Well, some of us are fat boys anyway. I'm included in that, by the way. I have no problem. I just want to make a short presentation to Gus. I'm from the Mount Clemens Resident Agency. There are 5 of us out there. And over the 10 years that I've been in Mount Clemens, the rapport that the FBI has had with the St. Clair Shores Police Department has just been outstanding. And our relationship with Gus has just been top-notch. And Gus, without further ado, on behalf of all the men in Mount Clemens and the other agents in the past that you've had an opportunity to work for, I'd like to present you with this seal of the FBI.
Oh, beautiful.
Oh, did you want to say something? We're about 1/10 of the way through this program. I figure we'll be about next Wednesday. We'll be Sheriff Bill Hackle, stand up and take a bow. Oh, he is standing up. Oh. Thank you very much. I just, as I see people, somebody wake up Bill Hershiser. Bill, is he dead? You got somebody check his pulse. Former State Senator Joe Snyder. Joe. I can't see all of you. I know that Councilman Crutel is here. I saw Councilman Dumas. If you guys stand up and wave to the crowd. I don't know. I may miss you, but these bright lights up here. The next person, that I want to bring up, and I'm going to stay right here because this one's kind of important to me. It's someone I've known. You might not even be able to see her over this podium. I'll just hold her up. How's that? Because she's a little down. And all of us know how tough it is to be a cop's wife. I don't know how tough it is to be a cop. Why would I know that? Come on. No, I've heard it's very tough being a cop's wife. And I would like Sue Blumline to come up here, the power behind the throne, to share some of her more wonderful experiences living with God. Happily married over 3 weeks they've been. They've been married about 37 years, I think, but happily married about 3 weeks now. Anyway, Sue, come on up here. Share some of these things with us.
You're bad. Oh, boy. Boy, I haven't been this nervous since my wedding night. And I had a lot more to be nervous about.
Believe me.
As you will soon learn, I am not accustomed to speaking in front of a large group like this. But That's Gus's forte. But when he asked me to say a few words, I just couldn't, I had to give it a try. And it reminded me back of when we, on our first date, he asked me, I'm shaking.
Okay. No, you're okay.
He asked me how come I was so quiet, and I said, well, I'm kind of shy, and I never know what to say. At which Gus said, that's okay, honey. He said, I'll keep the conversation going, and you can just listen. Well, after 35 years, I'm still listening, trying to get a word in edgewise, so I couldn't pass up this opportunity. You know, everybody has been asking me since Gus retired how I'm going to put up with him for 24 hours a day, and I really didn't know how I would feel. Well, after 4 weeks, 2 days, and about 12 hours, all I want to know is there anyone out there that has a job opening for a guy with a lot of time on his hands? The one thing uppermost in my mind is, after all those years of being a boss and dishing out orders at the police station, how is he going to slow down and become Mr. Meek? Can you picture it? Neither can I. I guess you'll just have to go cold turkey, Gus. I don't know. But all kidding aside, as they say, living with Gus has never been boring, and we've always had a lot of fun and laughter in our home. And after 35 years, it's been pretty terrific, and I, for one, am looking forward to the next 35 years. Thank you.
And she always thought it was easy to get up here. We know, though, don't we, Gus? No, that wasn't too bad, was it, Sue? How about next week? You want to do this again? Now we got another double hitter for you. You see, I'm running them in teams wherever possible. Sometimes I get them mixed up, but the next two are sort of like oil and water. They go together that way. I'm going to bring them both up, and I'm not going to do anything funny about these guys because they are carrying heat, and I know it. So I'm going to bring up both Lieutenant Fred Marengo and Lieutenant Larry Germain, who have some special presentations.
Thanks, Jack. Only thing I would like to say with Gus, I think that he's been a policeman's policeman. He's fought for the betterment of our department, and he's certainly earned the respect of the officers on the department. And I would like to propose a toast to Gus for many, and Sue, for many happy years of retirement, if you join me in that place.
How about a hymn? Too many kids.
I would like to set the record straight on the Kiwanis. I'm not a member of Kiwanis, but Gus has spoken of it freely. And he came down one day to the front desk where I was working, and he was telling me about the woman that joined the Kiwanis Club. And I said, well, Gus, isn't that just rub you the grain the wrong way? He said, no, not really. He said, we needed somebody to cook and clean up anyway. So So anyway, I've got a couple other things here. I'd like to thank Jay Lowers, Ernie Rollo. Well, that's a wrong speech. Wait a minute. Gus is well known not only in our area, but throughout the state. I had the opportunity to call the governor's office in Lansing, and I was talking to his secretary, and I told him Gus Blumline was retiring, and could you get a letter of some type for him? Say no more. We know all about Gus. We'll take care of it. It's in the mail. So I got the letter, and here's what it says. Lieutenant Fred Marengo, my home address. Dear Lieutenant Marengo, it's a privilege for me to join your many friends and colleagues in extending official and personal congratulations as you retire after 35 years of service with the St. Clair Shores Police Department. And don't get excited, Zerly, if you're out there. You have made a significant contribution to the quality of life in the state of Michigan, and it is fitting that you receive thanks and praise for your dedication and commitment. Retirement always seems to arrive before you expect it. I hope you enjoy all the freedoms and privileges that are now yours. On behalf of the citizens of our great state, I offer sincere best wishes for happiness and peace in this new path. Sincerely, Governor James J. Blanchard. What I did, I just crossed out my name and I penned in yours, Gus. But that's the best I could really do in a short notice here. So congratulations.
He's not kidding either.
I don't know who's harder to follow, Fred or Jack. Told me that he was going to get the Kiwanis guys up here quick because they were about as funny as Marlon Sumner and get them out of here in a hurry. I'm kind of glad we didn't have to come after those guys. They had a pretty good actor. Uncle Gus. Everybody's talking about how much of a pleasure Gus is. For the behalf of the policemen here, it's been an experience working with Gus. It's been a pleasure since he retired. On behalf of the Command Officers Association and the Police Officers Association, we have a watch. Gus has been thinking about retiring for several months. He couldn't make up his mind if he wanted a sundial for his garden, a pocket watch, a $20 Timex, and a $480 check, or a $500 watch. Consequently, he didn't pick out his watch until Wednesday, so he didn't have a chance to get it engraved. He did pick out a fairly nice one, and he's not going to get any money from the union because of the cost of the watch. But he did pick out a nice diamond clustered Luncheon. And it will be engraved Lieutenant August G. Blumline, hired 6/13/53, retired 2/16/88. 35 years. He was kind of a tough-ass cop. When I was a kid working in a gas station next to the Lakeshore House, I used to pull in with a police car and wash my windows, kid. Check the air and the tires. I've known him a long time. Most of you people know Gus's love for hats. He has quite a collection of hats. And he always wanted a hat with chicken shit on the bill. Unfortunately, while he was a policeman, he didn't get to wear the hat with chicken shit on the bill. But I found Gus a hat, and so nobody else gets in trouble for this, Gus. It's mine. Uncle Gus, I found him a hat with dog shit on the bill. One he can wear proudly.
Oh my goodness!
Congratulations,
My
pal. Enjoy your retirement.
One of you guys better watch this watch because it might disappear. Thank you both, and both Lieutenant Marengo and Lieutenant Germain had asked me to hurry this up. They're both studying hard for the chief's test, and they wanted to get back and continue on. I think they're up to about chapter 3 now. Another gentleman that's up to about chapter 2 is going to come up here and make a presentation, ladies and gentlemen. And some of you have mentioned to me before I've been a little bit insensitive to Tony and his position, Chief Ewert. Tony, come on up. Start walking up here. By the time you get up here, I'll hit the final note and you'll be right into yours. Come on, Tony. Here we go. And I recognize that sometimes I've been a little harsh on Tony. But when I came in here today and Tony says, where the hell are we? Are all these people going to tee off before us? Come on. Ladies and gentlemen, Chief Ewert.
That's not one of your better efforts, too. You can do better than that. Is that right? Oh, okay. I don't have much to say, except that Gus is one of the few who were here when I came on. Matter of fact, I think there's just one left now, Jay, which seems like forever. But we worked together for a long time, and in spite of all the laughing and yakking it up, Gus will be missed. Gus?
Thanks, Tony.
Fireman badge.
Free gas for that?
Yeah, you go to this. Yeah, you take that to the city gas pump and you get free gas.
We've got a couple minutes here, and I could probably finish up that muskrat tale if you'd like. I didn't realize I was going to run that fast. After 35 years. I mean, Tony, why didn't you tell him the story about when Gus was put into the detective division, put in charge of the detective division? By the way, I didn't know Sheen could write, by the way. I heard he was writing the Kiwanis Bulletin. I didn't even know he could do that.
New crayons.
When Gus was put in charge of the investigations division, and by the way, he has a perfect record, perfect, 17 murders, no solutions. But because the retirement doesn't take place until officially at 4:30 today, we're hoping that if any of you are suspects, you'll turn your name in, you know.
We've kept that tradition going.
Okay. Anyway, when Gus was asked to be in the inspection division, they had told him to be discreet, and I don't know how the hell anybody could be discreet wearing a 1973 leisure suit and a cowboy hat. I mean, you pretty well stand out in a crowd. And speaking of a crowd, folks, I want to tell you something nasty that happened to me on the way up here. As most of you know, I take great seriousness in preparing my remarks. And I thought it was kind of chicken shit of the judge to throw spaghetti sauce on my notes. And he, in the meantime, has been using my pen, so I can't make any future notes, you know, about things that are happening. And he's sitting over there with my pen making up stuff, okay? He should be great. Now, let me tell you, if he flunks or blows it, folks, there's no reason for it. And without further ado, I would like to bring up our Honorable Judge Crouchman.
Actually, I thought it was real nice of Jack to loan Gus one of his suits. That watch, by the way, is engraved. A great deal of time and effort was put into thinking about what to put in the back of it. They had it engraved. If you take a look, you'll see that it says stainless steel, made in Japan, self-winding. The watch was made at Gus's directions. Someone asked what time it was, and he told them how to build it. By the way, Gus, before I forget, here's your get out of jail free card. That's the one he gave me when I was about 14. I saw him twice in jail, actually. The first time he threw me in, the second time he threw me out. The second time I happened to be with the client trying to interview him. He couldn't understand that he had a right to have an attorney there. He said, you're messing with my case, and he threw me out. That's a true story, isn't it, Gus?
Now you're going to get me.
You notice we wouldn't let Gus get too close to the microphone. He told us earlier he had a couple 100,000 carefully chosen words he wanted to drop on us. We're going to miss him over the court, quite frankly. You can always tell when Gus brought a prisoner over because they had a glazed over look in their eyes and ears burned out. No more lectures, please. You can always tell when he's been around because he'll be cow droppings going through the court across the carpet. And I don't know how he'd done that because there isn't a cow within 10 miles of St. Clair Shores. His biggest disappointment being in the police department, unfortunately, was that he had never caught a cattle rustler. He's always wanted to do that, but oh well. He might get one yet, patrolling down the swamps or something. Well, I guess I was actually going to come up here and just sum it all up in one neat phrase, Gus is okay. Sit down. One of the guys pointed out to me, and I guess you have to be a copper to understand this piece of advice, but Gus has always been known to give good advice to the younger guys coming in the department, particularly in the DB squad. I really don't understand the advice, but they told me that his advice always was that never the defendant, always the complaining witness, and I'm not sure what that means, Gus. Is that true? It's been my pleasure to work with Gus for his last 15 years, actually longer than that when I was practicing law. He always gave me good advice, get the money up front. You're not going, what are you crying about? Your client's going, good stuff like that. But Gus, it's been a pleasure.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Maybe it would have been better if you'd have done the original bit. Bill and I had an interesting conversation about 11:30 this morning that I may remember for a long, long time. He said, your ass is going to jail. I want to introduce a couple members of the family. John and Carol. I don't know where you're sitting. There's John with the babies going to sleep there. That's Brian, 3 years old. Kelly is somewhere around here playing in this spaghetti over there or something. And Martin and Paula. Martin was, there's Martin. Paula's gone. Also, I'd like to bring somebody up here that probably would have the best stories that we can relate to, and that's Dorothy Kendall, who is Gus's sister. Come on up, Dorothy. Dorothy's going to tell us about Gus's young life, I think. And,
give me your best shot.
Easy, Dort.
Hi, Gus.
Is this some muskrat?
No muskrats.
Okay.
And Sue only gave me 10 minutes to put this together, so I had to take one that I used last week when I introduced a young lady going into the nunnery. So this might not work, but I am sure glad to have this opportunity to congratulate Gus on his retirement. I never knew he worked, so when they told me he was going to retire, you know, I really was surprised. But after hearing how he snowed this whole group, I can't believe it. You know, when he was younger, he is my older brother, you understand that. He's not older than me, but he's older than my younger brother. So that's the way I separate them. But we in the family were really excited when he joined the police department because we knew that was the only way he was going to stay out of jail. And it worked. It really worked. But to skip over a big period here first, I want to ask something. Nobody's brought this up with all these people here, and I don't know whether there's anybody here from the Macomb Daily. But I would like to know if anybody knows how much of his retirement money he's invested in the Macomb Daily to get those articles in there. You know, you got an article that big and Gus Blumline's name is in there 5 times. You don't know what the hell what the article was about. All you know is Gus Blumline was there.
Go, Dort.
Now, all my friends, you know, I'm saying, you know, this is my brother, you know. And they're saying, yeah, well, we read that. You know, another week, you know, I said, well, we read that article about your brother again. And they said, God, he runs the whole department, right? And I said, well, at least. You know, he told me 3 times he turned down chief. So I figure he must be really running that department pretty good. Right, Gus? I don't think Chief... forgot his name. He would. I don't think he knew that, though. I'm going to tell you a little story and then I'll get down here. But my husband, Joe, gave a surprise social event for me. And he asked Gus to be the MC. Now, that was a big mistake, but he didn't know that. And Gus jumped on that boy right away. And he said, hey, let me at it, you know. And, all your life you gather friends, right? You got this group that's kind of elite, you know, and you got another group that's your family and people that know you. And then you got another group and you do things with each group like that. Well, now here Joe invited all 3 groups. So when I came in there and I see this bunch and I thought, oh Lord, and Gus looks like he's had 2 beers at least. And he's master of ceremonies. I'm in a heap of trouble, you know. And but then he gets up there and he starts telling him about his older sister, how I helped raise this illiterate nothing, you know, into an intellectual potentate at least. You know, and I said, hey, you know, that's making me look pretty good. What the hell? I didn't have to worry. You know, he's doing great. But he blew it. He got to the point there where he had to go way down into the elementary grade school. Well, elementary grade, same thing. Anyway, he's talking about this hawk-nosed teacher going up and down the aisles, and I'm turning gray because I know it's coming. and she's just a sniffing up and down there and stops in front of Gus. And she says, aha, here's where it's coming from. And Gus stands up there and he tells this group of people, he said, yeah, I had shit my pants. Well, this is not good. You know, this is the point where things are rough. So he says, but let me tell you how good I felt when my older sister came down from her room and took my little hand in hers and walked me with my pants full of shit home and cleaned me up. Now he had reduced me all the way down to that. This is it. What happened was now, when all these articles are still coming in the paper, my friends are saying, Dorothy, which brother is that? Is that the one that craps his pants? So I'm extra glad he retired so I can put all this to rest.
Thanks, Dorothy.
Take his notes too.
No, don't take mine, Thank you, Dorothy. We'll be talking about it, seeing an agent right after this thing is over. I would like to correct one thing that Gus might have told you. He said he turned down the chief's job 3 times. He was turned down for the chief's job 3 times. He just left a little word out there. I'd also like to comment on something Dorothy said. This is a copy of an article that appeared in our illustrious Macomb Daily. Bob Sell was here, by the way, reporting on this. You'll probably get this wrong, too. In fact, I wouldn't doubt that he wrote down the muskrat poem. This is an actual article, folks, so just to know that there's more humor and truth than there is, lies. And it says, I'm a fellow who knows nothing about building cars. It doesn't say he doesn't know a lot of things about a lot of things. It says, I just buy them. And he goes on to say, I've worked hard all my life, which very few of us would acknowledge, and have been careful with my money. Well, we know that. Very careful. Short arms, deep pockets, we know that. Now in my twilight years, that means he's operating in a fog most of the time. I want one of my rewards, a beautiful big Cadillac. Now, there's always a story behind the story of what you read in the papers. And let me tell you, as someone that deals with the newspapers quite often, I can tell you that I see articles and I've actually seen the event, and I know they're 2 different things. When Gus wrote this damn article was when he was in negotiations with the COA. Now, you know how impressive that was to the attorneys sitting there listening to how poor the officers are? And Gus said, I want my Cadillac, folks. So those of you guys who are bitching about your contract, your last contract, you may want to thank Gus about that too. And at this time, I'd like to call Kenny Carver up here. And I know Kenny's somewhere out there in the audience, and someone will help him up. Oh, here he is. Kenny has to get over and get his hair repermed.
Well, I promise to be brief today. I have to. Jack threatened me if I rattle on. But I worked for Gus many years, and as a young patrolman, I knew one thing you didn't want to do. You didn't want to get called into Gus's office, because you knew if he called you in, you were in trouble. I was elected by the members of the Detective Bureau to make this presentation to Gus today. We sat down around 8 o'clock the other morning to try to think of some good things to say about him. Around noon, we adjourned for lunch. So, anyways, in appreciation of all your advice that you've given us over the years, we'd like to make this presentation to you. The plaque says, Lieutenant August Blumline, a.k.a. Uncle Gus, and I think that says how we feel about him. Chief of Detectives, 1981 through 1988. Our thanks and appreciation from all of those that served under your command and guidance. And I will say, it's been a real pleasure working with Gus all these years, and I'm sure we'll see him around in the future because he'll probably have an office somewhere in Macomb County or Lansing with this on the wall. So, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ken. Because of all that respect, I know that you won't believe me when I tell you that I was talking to one of the cops this morning about Gus, because of this event coming up. And right now, the name escapes me. I can't remember who the hell it was that told me this, but I do remember it's the cop that's got the big bazoos, the one that's almost busting out of the uniform. And I said to Sergeant Goosens, I said, what do you guys really think about that? I had to do that. I love that one.
That was good, Jack.
We're winding down, and those of you who came here on the promise that you would be paid $25 for showing up. See that guy up at the bar on your way out, and he'll just give it to you. Being the wife of a cop is bad enough, but being the child of a cop sometimes makes a big difference. And I'd like to call up John Blumline to share some of his experiences of having Augie the muskrat lead the discipline in the house. John Blumline, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, yesterday someone asked me to say a few words about what it's been like to be growing up as a policeman's son, and I thought for a moment, I says, I really never thought of it that way. It hasn't really been, or I haven't noticed a major difference. It's not like it's not to say that it hasn't had its pluses to be a son of a policeman, like occasional ride in the squad car, or at dinner time sitting behind the wheel, with little head sitting up above the steering wheel, or an occasional down to the police station to get locked in jail. Of course, I don't look at it with the same fondness today as I would have at 5. But or when I still can remember when I was 6, it was a big thing whenever the other kids found out your dad was a policeman. They always wanted to find out a lot more. I had one kid that started walking with me to school, and every day he would ask, "Gee, did your dad catch any robbers last night, or did he, chase down any criminals and things like that?" And gee, I don't know. This went on for several weeks. I said, "Geez, this is getting kind of boring," So I started making up this story that began somewhere at a bank or something, and ended up out in Lake St. Clair with high-speed boats and things like this. And as I was going the whole time, he's going, "Really, really?" And finally, I ran out of things to think of, and I says, he said, "Really?" I says, "No, not really." But the whole thing was that my dad never really brought work home with him, so it wasn't like it was a major part of our lives. And it always puzzled me that a lot of people say, well, you're the policeman's son, aren't you? Or your dad's the policeman, and never really thought of him as being the policeman. He was always my dad. And I know I went down to I think I was 6 or 7, and when I first got the license to go to the end of the block. And so I sent out on a big project to get a loaf of bread from the party store in the corner. And the party store man, he thought this was real cute. Here's this little kid, and he thought he was going to strike up a conversation with me. He says, "Well, what does your daddy do?" I says, "He's a policeman." He says, and what do policemen do? I says, "Well, they drive around in police cars all day long." And he for some reason, that joke got around for a long time, and I still don't know what the joke was about that. But of course, there's some downsides to it too. The occasional time you would avoid getting a traffic ticket always included a lecture in lieu of the ticket, and I'm not too sure which was worse. I do recall very vividly an incident that happened in high school that maybe I shouldn't tell, but some friends of mine and I met at the Dairy Queen to go out, try to spend the evening Friday night. And one of our friends showed up. He had somehow gotten hold of a 6-pack of beer and had consumed most of it and was totally out of it. So he says, well, this got to be a big joke. We says, well, what can we do? He says, well, maybe we better sober him up somehow. And somebody got the bright idea, well, let's take him over to Lakeview and we'll tie him to a tree, drive around the block for 15 minutes and come back and pick him up. He should be ready to go. Oh, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. So we did that. And just as we were getting back in the car, all of a sudden this beacon from heaven shining in our faces, it was the big spotlight on the side of a squad car. And I just realized then that there were still some beer sitting on the floor of the car. I says, kick him under the seat. And so then we were scared, silly, and the policeman says, what are you doing? He says, of course he asked me, and I says, we just tied this guy to a tree back there. He says, what? He says, get out of the car. Well, they found the beer. We end up at the police station, and they're going to book us or whatever goes on there. And he says, do you have some ID? So we all pass out our ID, and he looks at mine, he looks at me, he looks down again, he looks back at me. He says, do you live on Frazo? I says, he looked at that thing 3 times. You ought to know that by now. I said, yes. He says, just a minute. He goes out, closes the door, goes to another room. He says, hey, Bill, look who we got here. And they were laughing, didn't stop for 15 minutes. So there are some downsides to it. But I guess if I'd have to sum it up, it all comes back to when I was in kindergarten. Believe it or not, I can still remember little bits and pieces of some things. And I remember we had the big class field trip, and we were going to go to the police station. I think at that time the police station had either just been built or was a year old or something. And of course, my dad was the tour guide, and I was beaming because I was at the front of the line, and I was treated like a celebrity in school for several weeks. And I know at that time I was the proudest kid in school, and because my feeling was that my dad was the most special kid, or the most special dad of all the kids in the class. And I still feel that way, and it's not because of what he is, the fact that he's a policeman, but who he is, and all the things that he's given us, me, my family, and everyone that's been associated with him. Thank you.
Thank you, John, very much. This is the part of the program I hate. You wind down and you give him the last shot. I absolutely hate this, and I'm going to excuse myself because I'm going to be back to work. So somebody convey to me what he says. I hope you know by my remarks there's a great deal of affection for Gus and Susie. Has been for a long time. You should know that. I don't have to tell Gus that. I'm trying to get out of it, folks, because he's going to nail my ass. Gus and I go back a long way. We've done a lot of things, and we've probably made several people upchuck their lunch by things we've done. We've never been allowed to work in the same building. I had to quit Kiwanis because of him. We weren't allowed in the same club. We're not allowed to live on the same block. There's certain restrictions when people are a little flaky. Ladies and gentlemen, our honored guest, Lieutenant Gus Blumline.
I know time is going on, and I'm going to be very brief, and that's going to be a surprise for everyone. I'll tell you, I really, Judge and Bill and Fred and Larry and everyone, it's just been tremendous. Nothing like this ever happened to me before in my life. Thank God, I don't think I could handle it again. I appreciate everyone coming, and thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I know most of you people I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. There's a couple I ain't never going to forget. Most of you I'm going to remember fondly. And I just feel it's a privilege to have such friends in the community and my family. And to be redundant, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Hey, just one more thing we wanted to mention. We made a professional video of Gus's friends, or friend we had. But anyway, we interviewed several people at the police department, City Hall, and it's sort of maybe an hour rated anyway. But we have it set up over here if you can stay and you want to see it. It's about 15 minutes. I think you'll enjoy it. Thank you.
Thanks, Fred. Thank you all for coming. That's it, folks.
Charles, Jack, did you use the
Gus? Fool